Well, we just saw that J.D. Vance expressed himself being heartbroken over the response of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops and their statement regarding immigration and the Trump-Vance policies. Well, today we have some more news on that topic, and that is Trump freezes Catholic Charities funding. And Catholic Charities is very upset, and they're saying we do good work, we're feeding the poor, we're helping with housing, delivering lunches, visiting people who are ill, homebound. All of that's great. But the problem here is Catholic Charities has been rumored and reported for years, even decades, of facilitating, allegedly, assisting, allegedly, and even providing legal, advice, counsel, to help undocumented, illegal immigrants in the United States of America. And Catholics have been complaining about this for years. And we're going to look at the video today of the press secretary of President Trump, who is a Catholic. And we're also going to look at, it's kind of an incriminating video. You know, they're saying we don't do that. And then within days, Catholic Charities puts out this video showing how illegal immigrants can work around ICE. So it's a complicated situation. We're going to cover it today. I'm going to do question and answers like I usually do towards the end of today's podcast. And let's jump into it. So the first video that I want to share is not that one, is this one. This is the press secretary. I think her name is Levitt, Miss Levitt. And she is there she is. She's a Catholic. And this was this was yesterday. Here we go.
I'm happy to answer your question.
And I can project. Does the president intend to permanently cut off funding to NGOs that are bringing illegal foreign nationals to the country, such as Catholic Charities?
I am actually quite certain that the president signed an executive order that did just that, and I can point you to that. I'm happy to answer.
So there it is. All right. And I think it's interesting here that the press is aware that Catholic Charities is in the group of NGOs providing, how does she say it? Let's listen to that again.
And I can project. Does the president intend to permanently cut off funding to NGOs that are bringing illegal foreign nationals to the country?
There we go. Bringing illegal foreign nationals.
Such as Catholic Charities.
I am actually quite certain that the president signed an executive order that did just that, and I can point you to that.
Okay, so there it is. And then we're going to look at the video shortly. I want to talk about this a little bit, of a lawyer for Catholic Charities talking about how illegal immigrants can work around ICE. So it's interesting that already in the press, they are aware that Catholic Charities is a NGO facilitating illegal immigration in America. And I, as a new Catholic, many, many moons ago, our family had sponsored, not adopted, but had sponsored a young man from Africa. His parents were murdered. His siblings were murdered. He was a refugee, came to America, got a college degree. And after college, he, as a Muslim, went to work for Catholic Charities. And I remember talking to him one day. He eventually did go back to Africa on his own free accord. But I remember talking to him, and he said, yeah, it's great that you're Catholic. I work for Catholic Charities. It's an amazing organization because they don't care about religion. I said, what do you mean? He's like, it's not about religion. They're just helping people. And you would be amazed that so much of the staff and so many of the people there are actually Muslims like myself. And I remember thinking, Catholic Charities employing, it's a Catholic organization. You know, if it was like Jewish Charities and you were talking like, yeah, you'd be amazed. Like Jewish Charities, so many people here are Muslims or Roman Catholics. Even back then, I remember thinking that's very odd. And then through the years, I've read stories, read articles where I've seen Catholic Answers involved, particularly in border states, but also in places not border states, facilitating illegal immigration. And there's a lot of money involved in it. And we talked about that in our last podcast with J.D. Vance, where the United States Conference of Bishops in the last 4 years under Biden received $2.4 billion. And I've actually seen that number adjusted lately, closer to $3 billion. I don't know what the real number is, but we are talking about billions with the B, the strong B, billions of dollars. And this has non-Catholics upset, and it has Catholics upset as well. And I kind of explained it last time like this, all right? You look at Pope Francis, you look at Marxists in the church or liberation theology. Liberation theology is just code for Marxism with a blanket of Catholicism over it. You take that idea and you say, okay, America has wealthy people in it. Pick a country. Colombia, Mexico, they're a poor country. So we need to redistribute the wealth. Well, it's impossible to get America to just send money, although we do send to some of these nations tens, hundreds, millions of dollars in aid. So the best way to redistribute is just to take those people and insert them into the United States of America. And in their mind, and in their reasoning, I need you to understand this, in their reasoning, they believe that this is social justice. They are doing justice in the world. They are evening things out, and that this is the way forward. It's the way that you redistribute wealth. And part of the problem is Western nations, European nations, particularly the United States of America, have a pretty big safety net with Social Security and medical costs. America not so great on the medical part, but when it comes to food stamps and housing and all sorts of things, there's a lot there. So if you take someone from another country and place them in there, even if they don't have a job right away or whatever, they have all kinds of funding. And you saw this in the Midwest with the Haitians being brought in. And, you know, the poor American citizens were like, they're getting all this free food at the grocery store and they're getting housing allowance. We're not getting anything. And we live here and we pay taxes. That is the liberation theology perspective. This is their way in 2025 to redistribute wealth. Okay, that's the strategy. And unfortunately, in the Catholic Church, it has been infected, plagued, and infiltrated. See my book, Infiltration, for more details. Or you can get a signed copy at patreon.com/Dr. Taylor Marshall. Give the 200-year history of how Marxism, secularism, Freemasonry, etc., has infiltrated into the hierarchy of the Catholic Church. They've infiltrated in, and you have many in the hierarchy, priests, bishops, cardinals, perhaps even popes, who don't really believe, hear me out here, they don't really believe in the historic Catholic faith of the dogmas. They don't think it's all that important, you know, that you insist on Jesus being the way, the truth, and the life, that he is virgin born, sinless, died for our sins, rose on the third day. They'll tell you, just be a good Hindu, you're spiritual, you're going to heaven. Be a good Muslim, you're a monotheist, you're all good. It's the same thing. You're going to heaven. So the terrain of Catholicism, you know, which is beautiful, you know, there's mountains and there's valleys and there's forests, and you look at Catholic theology, Catholic tradition, liturgy, architecture, art. It's a beautiful terrain, beautiful landscape, right? To them, that is not important. And how do you know it's not important? Look at what they teach in their sermons. It's a word salad. There's no dogma, there's no morality, there's no grit to it. Look at the buildings they build. They're not beautiful. They're plain. They're ugly. They're sterile. They're concrete. They're modern. If there are images in there, they are abstract. Look at their morality. They don't really believe in any moral laws. They only believe in one commandment, and that is follow your conscience. Someone goes in the confessional, Father, my wife and I are really struggling with having children, and we don't want another child, and the priest says, you don't want another child? Yeah. Is that your conscience saying that? Yeah. Yes, it is. Well, then you follow your conscience and you can use contraception. It's really the only moral dogma that they hold. And so you take men like this, clergy like this, nuns in pantsuits, no veils, short hair, lapel pins, you know what I'm talking about. You put them in the church, they're getting money, they're getting a place to live. And for them, the most important thing is social justice. And social justice is the redistribution. And this, by the way, if you're watching and you're Catholic and you're wondering, why is it that since the 60s, sermons are meh, music is just Peter, Paul, and Mary, lame folk music? Why are people not building, with all the wealth we have, why are they not building beautiful cathedrals and basilicas and monasteries and abbeys? Because they don't care. All right? I'm just going to let you know. They don't care. What they care about is social justice, which is their way of saying socialism. And I've been saying this for a long time. You don't need to say social justice together. Justice, according to Aristotle, according to Thomas Aquinas, according to the Bible, justice is giving one's due to another. So honor your father and mother. We have due. We owe our parents honor for procreating us and bringing us into this world, even if they're not good people. We honor, for example, our clergy. It is due. But ultimately, justice is we honor our Creator because he made all this, and we have breath. And then like contracts, business contracts, if you sign and say, I'm going to do this work for this amount of money by this date, and they give the money, you owe by justice for that transaction to be completed. So justice is always social because justice always involves others. You don't have to say social justice. You can just say justice. But they say social justice because they want to do a little ism, socialism, but they can't say socialism because the people in the pews will freak out. So they say social justice, social justice, social justice. It's just the social justice. Justice. You got to put a little on your justice when you say the social justice. You got to talk like Prince. All right, let's look at the other video. Before I do, we're going to look at the video from Catholic Charities on how to avoid ICE and being deported. If you want to learn about not social justice, but justice and the four cardinal virtues, prudence, justice, fortitude, temperance, the three theological virtues, faith, hope, and charity, and you want to explore the real terrain and landscape of authentic traditional Catholicism, and yesterday was the Novus Ordo Day, feast day of St. Thomas Aquinas, I want to invite you as we come to the end of this month to join the new St. Thomas Institute. And that's where I teach online courses from the perspective of Thomas Aquinas, hence New St. Thomas Institute. And we have courses and certificate programs in Catholic philosophy, Catholic theology, Latin Mass, where I teach you about Latin and how to pronounce it, and I walk you through the Latin Mass. We have a whole course on the Church Fathers, if you want to be into the Church Fathers. We have a whole course that I teach on medieval theology, a course on Counter-Reformation theology. I have a whole course on the Old Testament where I take you through every single book of the Old Testament and give you all the Catholic typology, Catholic prophecies. In the same way, we have a whole course that I teach on the Catholic New Testament. I walk you through every book of the New Testament, and we explore all the Catholic mysteries, the sacraments, Our Lady, Christ, the apostles, all of it. It's beautiful. And this is a way for you to increase your catechesis. Not all of us receive great catechesis at First Communion, Confirmation, or when we went through RCIA or OCIA. If you want to go deeper through Thomas Aquinas, right? This is not like my take on theology. What does Thomas Aquinas say on all these things? What do the church fathers say? That's what we're going to do. So I invite you to join. You can get all 10 courses and start all 10 courses. We have thousands and thousands of students right now in 70 different nations. This is the biggest and largest online Catholic institute, and I invite you to join. And to the end of the month, you can join and get started for $1, $1, and you have to use the link in the show notes below or in the pinned comment. So you can join for $1 and get started on all 10 courses or whichever courses you want to choose. You'll also get an online Catholic encyclopedia, the old one, 1917, before the modernists wrecked it. Dewey Rhames' English Bible, searchable, Summa Theologiae by Thomas Aquinas, all the church fathers translated in English, so much more. You can join at nsti.com or click the link and begin for $1. And I'll see you in there. All right, let's look at the video with the Catholic Charities. Now, what's funny about this is if they hadn't put this video out, they could have just said, no, we're just handing out diapers and sandwiches, and no, you got us all wrong. But they literally put out a video with a lawyer telling people with the Refugee and Immigration Services of Catholic Charity what to do. And they actually put it out on the public where Trump and J.D. Vance and all the non-Catholics and all the Catholics can see it. And of course, it went viral. All right, so let's take a look at what she has to say. This is for commentary purposes only.
Graham, and I'm an attorney at Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of Milwaukee in the Refugee and Immigration Services program.
Okay, so there is a Refugee and Immigration Services. We know there's big money in this, especially under Biden. There was a lot of federal funding because Biden just didn't have an open border. He needed people to take their hand and start bringing them in, integrating them, getting them social services. Who's going to do that? Well, there's lots of groups, but Catholic Charities is one of the biggest. And as you know, most Mexicans coming over the Mexican border are Catholic. So for Joe Biden, this is a perfect marriage. We'll just give them money and money and money, and then they can go ahead and do the refugee and immigration integration.
This is a video about knowing your rights if Immigration and Customs Enforcement approaches you. All people living in the United States, including people who are undocumented, have certain rights under the United States Constitution.
But they don't have a right to vote and all other things. And as Trump and Ms. Leavitt and the border czar and others have said, once you come into a country illegally, it is a crime. Now, if you are trafficked, that's not your fault. And that happens to a lot of people and a lot of children. And we have to be gracious and merciful and do all the right things for them. But if you intentionally come in, that's a crime. So if I intentionally go to Vatican City and I climb over the walls and I have a backpack with food and a tent and I set it up in the Vatican Gardens and I start sleeping there, that is a crime. Even if I say, well, there's nowhere else in Rome to stay. All the hotels are booked. So I just got a tent. I'm just going to sleep here. Don't worry. I'm not going to mess with y'all. I will be arrested. It is a crime. All right. If I go into France illegally or England or China or Russia or any of these places, it is a crime. This is why, by the way, you have passports and visas to keep track of people. Countries don't like people just coming in undocumented. It leads to crime, trafficking, drugs, espionage, a whole bunch of bad things. It's never been a good thing. Let's hear her continue on this.
If immigration officers, what we sometimes call Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE,
ICE,
come to your workplace, they must have a valid search warrant or the consent of your employer to enter non-public areas. If you are undocumented and immigration officers come to your workplace, be aware of the following. First, do not panic and do not run away. If you are frightened and feel like you need to leave, you can calmly walk toward the exit. If you are stopped,
so it's just run away. Okay, this is a really fast way of saying bounce, skedaddle.
You may ask if you are free to leave. If the officer says no, do not try to exit the building. If you are questioned, you may tell them you want to remain silent. 2, you have the right to remain silent. You do not need to speak to the immigration authorities or answer any questions. If you are asked where you were born or how you entered the United States, you may simply refuse to answer or
Okay. So we're just, okay. I'm going to keep playing.
remain silent. If you choose to remain silent, say so out loud. If they ask you to stand in a group according to your immigration status, you do not have to move. Or you can move to an area that is not designated for any particular group. You may show a Know Your Rights card to an officer that explains that you will remain silent and you wish to speak to a lawyer. You may refuse to show identity documents and say what country you are from. Do not, though, show any false documents and do not lie. Third, you have the right to speak to a lawyer.
All right, I'm going to stop it there. So what's interesting about this, and again, I mean, people can't be disrespected and harassed, but this proves without a doubt that Catholic Charities is aiding illegal immigrants, wants them to be here, and wants them to stay here. This was a really dumb move, Catholic Charities. You know, everyone thinks that this is what you're doing, and then you just publish, hey, this is what we're doing. And Donald Trump, according to Ms. Leavitt, is issued an executive order freezing the funding. And they'll say, well, yeah, we do all these good things, but the problem, and this is, you know, I don't want to, there's no comparison between Catholic Charities and Planned Parenthood, but the Planned Parenthood thing is, but we do mammograms too. And it's like, yeah, but there's a whole dumpster back there with evidence of other things you do, right? Now, again, I don't want to equivocate those two things, right? I'm just saying sometimes when you're doing something that's suspicious and you just say, but we're also giving out free diapers and sandwiches, that's good, right? But we need to look at the reason for your funding, the purpose of your funding that was set up under President Biden, or even previously under Trump the first term or Obama or whatever. And this is also, I think, it's honestly not dividing Catholics. Now, I'm a traditional Catholic. I go to traditional Latin Mass. I know that my circle is kind of tratty, but I also know a lot of people that go to the Novus Ordo and spend time with them. I haven't met anyone yet who was opposed to this. Most Catholics are embarrassed. Most Catholics are discouraged that the bishops and Catholic Charities have become a social justice NGO that do not teach the Catholic faith, the morality, the doctrine. And they are working contrary to the best interest of Americans. Before I go to Q&A, what if someone just took up residence on my property, in the house or outside the house? If I call the police, right? It's true they have a right to remain silent and all that. But what if there was someone there from the Catholic Church helping them get away with that? I would be concerned about why that person is here trying to give advice so that that person remains on my property illegally. And if that person, I found out, was getting paid by the county or the city or the state or the federal government, I'd be really concerned. Why is this person getting paid to consult and help people to stay on my property illegally? And that's the problem, right? So we're going to go to Q&A. Got a lot of people in the show today. We got 5,000 people. Big topic today. Big topic. I'm also going to show the Borders Are video, which we played in the podcast one before this. And I'm going to ask everybody to like this video before we go to comments, and share this video in two places. Share this video on X, also known as Twitter. Share this video on Facebook. All right. You are my algorithm. You get this show out there. There's over 1 million people subscribing to this channel on YouTube, and that's because y'all share it. We have a great, high IQ, high info audience here. The live chat is awesome. The comments are awesome. Get in the live chat, leave me some comments. And also, if you're new, please subscribe. And I also want to share with you our sponsor today, which is one of the ones that I really like, and that is Birch Gold. I believe gold is a important asset. And Joy and I personally have held gold for a long time. And I think we have a lot of problems with inflation. We have the egg debate, and we have everything a little bit price controls are a little bit scary. And if you have a family, if you have an investment, if you have an IRA, you're looking at ways where you can hedge that inflation. And we also now are talking about tariffs on our trade partners, tax cuts, regulations. And so gold, I think, is a good part of that strategy. And Birch Gold is the only gold company that I trust, and it's releasing their ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era with a foreword by Donald Trump Jr. And you get a free copy. There's no commitment, along with Birch Gold's free information kit on gold. If you just text my name right now, Taylor, Taylor, and you just take out your phone and you dial the number 989898 and just text the word Taylor, and you'll get this free 2025 ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era. And Birch Gold is still the company I trust to help you to convert your existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. So text my name, Taylor, to 989898 to receive your free copy of the ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era. There's no obligation, only information to help you. And remember, Birch Gold has a A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews with thousands of happy customers that you can trust at Birch Gold. So text my name, Taylor, Taylor, to the number on your phone, 989898, or you can also click the link in the show notes or in the pinned comment, and that'll take you there as well. All right, let's take your comments, your questions, your super chats. We got 2 super chats waiting right now. First one is from Barbara Redmacher. Hopefully I said that right. The FSSP will receive a Vatican visitation on February 11th. Sympathetic Catholics are asked to pray a novena from February 2nd to February 10th. Novena is on the FSSP website. Thank you, Barbara, for reminding me of that. I've seen this novena, and my family and I are members of a fraternity of St. Peter Parish. For those of you that don't know, FSSP is short for Fraternity of St. Peter. And it was founded in 1988 to offer the traditional Latin Mass in the Catholic Church. And our family will be joining in on this because they're receiving a visitation from the Vatican. Usually when you get a visit, it can be a little scary. They might go to the visit and make some conclusions that maybe weren't intended. So we got to make sure that nothing peculiar happens to the Fraternity of St. Peter. So thank you, Barbara, for reminding us. And you can go to the FSSP website and get that novena to begin on February 2nd, Feast of the Purification in the presentation. Next super chat is from the Casman 777. If Francis doesn't like the deportations, Trump should just deport all the migrants to the Vatican. See how much they like MS-13 terrorizing them. Them. Yes, we talked about that in the previous podcast. And I'd encourage you to go back and watch that podcast. It's the J.D. Vance and Trump and the U.S. bishops. And I show the clip of Vance. Actually, I'm going to show it again in case y'all missed that. It's a short clip. Let me get on this here. This is J.D. Vance discussing it in his heartbreak.
Let me just address this particular issue, Margaret, because as a practicing Catholic, I was actually heartbroken by that statement. And I think that the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops needs to actually look in the mirror a little bit and recognize that when they receive over $100 million to help resettle illegal immigrants,
it's more than that.
Are they worried about humanitarian concerns, or are they actually worried about their bottom line?
Is it money or is it faith?
going to enforce immigration law. We're going to protect the American people.
Yeah.
Donald Trump promised to do that. And I believe the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, if they're worried about the humanitarian costs of immigration enforcement, let them talk about the children who have been sex trafficked because of the wide open border of Joe Biden.
You personally...
Boom. Okay. Boom goes the dynamite. So that was a great podcast. Again, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any podcasts. I'm going to jump. I don't see any more super chats. I'm going to bump into the general over here. Tammy Harder. Taylor, ask everyone here, do you know anyone personally who Catholic Charities has helped? Okay. I'll ask y'all. Tammy asked me to ask you. Do y'all know anyone in your lives that Catholic Charities has helped or assisted? And if you have, I'm going to look in the comments here. How did they help them? All right. The only person in my whole life that I've ever met was the Muslim guy that I just told you about. All right. So Tammy has a good question. Has Catholic, and we have a lot of people right now. We have 5,337 people watching on Facebook, X, YouTube, and this will be uploaded to Rumble as well. So this is a pretty good group of people, over 5,000 people. Has Catholic Charities assisted anyone you know? And we'll check in on that. I'll be monitoring the comments on that. All right, going back into your comments here. Yost says, Dear Catholics, remember that deal where you are supposed to follow the laws of the land except when it defies God's laws? Well, Trump enforcing legal immigration isn't defying God's law. Thank you, Yost. It's a great point. It's Catholic teaching that if your government has a law that is not against natural law or divine law, you obey it. That's Catholic teaching. All right. If it's not against natural law or divine law, so let me give you some examples. If your government said you must not be baptized, that's against divine law, so you don't have to obey it. If the government said you may not go to Mass or receive communion or go to confession ever again, that is against divine law. You can break it. All right. Or if the government said you must kill someone in order to keep your citizenship, that's against natural law and divine law. You don't have to do that. But if the government asks you to do something that's reasonable and for the common good, that's not against natural law or divine law, you have to do it. And let me give you an example. When you're driving down the road and there's a box on the street and a light bulb turns red, you must stop. Now you might think that's kind of dumb. A light bulb turns red. What does that have to do with natural law, divine law? Why do I have to obey that? You have to obey that because that's part of our system to preserve life, which is part of natural law. And we have this funny contraption that it's a box that has a red, a yellow, and a green light, and red means stop. Yellow means speed up. Yellow means get ready for the red, and green means go. And you have to follow that. Catholic teaching is you have to follow the contraption. Another one, if you're driving down the street and there's a school and it says school zone and the lights are flashing, you have to drive 20 miles per hour or less. Catholic theology is you have to do it. And if a nation says you can't legally come in here and you come in there, that is a crime. It has to be respected. It's the laws of the land. And telling people you can't come in here illegally is not against natural law and it's not against divine law. In fact, divine law, if you read Thomas Aquinas, again, join us over at New St. Thomas Institute. We talk about this. Thomas Aquinas talks about the reality of borders and real sovereignty of real nations. Can't just walk into any man's castle, any man's nation. This is why I have passports, visas, birth certificates, etc. All right, I'm going to ask y'all again. Do you know anyone who has benefited from Catholic Charities? Got a super chat coming in here from Logan Missiak. Doesn't heaven have gates where all the righteous will be? I don't understand why deporting those who have committed crimes is bad. Heaven has gates. The Vatican has gates. Rome has walls. The Vatican has walls. There is a separation. Why? To preserve and protect human life. If I'm at home, even if I'm not home, and my brother or my sister or an in-law or a family friend, ding dong, and, someone in my family, oh, hey, it's John, and they open the door and he comes in, I got no problem with that. Why? Because the preservation of human life is not at risk. If we're in the living room and the front door opens and 3 men that I've never seen in my life walk into my house, it just got real. It got real fast. Triple real right there. That was pretty good. It got real fast. Why? Because there is a potential of danger for my family. I have to protect them, right? And uncertainty, unknowns, brings about a level of threat. Ladies, if you're in a parking garage alone, it's after dark, and you see someone, hey, Jill, and it's a coworker, oh, hey, John, and you're fine. There's no problem. If someone has their face covered, or you've never seen this person before, that is a sign of potential danger. And you are allowed to avoid, confront, engage that danger in a way of self-preservation. And currently, as a Texan, I know there are people pouring over the border. Not all of them. There are probably people coming over to the border who may be smarter than me, holier than me. I don't know. But there are a lot of people coming over who are part of Mexican gangs, who are trafficking, who are coyotes. In the podcast, when they were talking about coyotes, and people were like, are coyotes really bad in Texas? What's going on with the coyote? No, coyote is someone who's trafficking people from Mexico to Texas or one of the southern states. Fentanyl, drugs, all kinds of things are streaming over. And that uncertainty means lock it down, shut it down, get some control. If I come home from work and, there's 12 people that I don't know camping out my backyard, that's a problem. Gonna have to raise the fences, call the police, put some razor wire on top of the fence. I don't know. I'm gonna have to do something because I got kids at home. And if something should happen to them, whether they should die or something less, that is a tragedy. And so prevention of the unknown and of the stranger, the undocumented, is 100% righteous and just. It's justice. It's not social justice, but it's justice. Not social justice, but justice. Real justice. God's justice. Thank you, Logan. Good super chat. See, I got high IQ, high info audience here at the Dr. Taylor Marshall podcast. Catherine McAllen says, what is stranger danger called now? It's called stranger danger. That's what my kids call it. Oh, we got Juanita Pacheco. I'm a disabled elder with chronic health issues. I went to Catholic Charities, denied services because I was not a Muslim. I mean, my only experience with Catholic Charities is the place is full of Muslims under the banner of the word Catholic. Shyla S. says, the sad part is the Catholic Church is still reeling from lawsuits from abuse scandals. Now this. I know. And let me just do, we're in the dugout. The game's not going well. Let me put on my coach cap. Give y'all a little pep talk in the dugout here. Often we are embarrassed because we talk with non-Catholics, in particular Protestants, evangelicals in this country, United States of America, and they wag their finger at us and say, your Pope is a communist. Your Pope is a socialist. Remember, Francis said The miracle at the feeding of the 5,000, Jesus didn't multiply the loaves. He encouraged people to share. He encouraged people to redistribute. Francis said that, by the way. It's ludicrous. They wag their finger in our face. And if that weren't bad enough, they say, look at Catholic Charities. It's a money laundering scheme for immigration. Then they'll say, look at Joe Biden. He says he's a good Catholic, devout Catholic. He receives communion every Sunday. Do you agree with that? And then we're kind of sheepish. And then she said, and Nancy Pelosi, she says she's a Catholic and she receives communion every Sunday. You agree with that? It's hard, isn't it? It's like 40 lashes. And then they say, and what about all those priests in Boston, LA, all those children? And it wasn't that it was just happening that your bishops and your cardinals and even maybe your popes were covering that filth up. And those are the men that you think are the successors of the apostles, and they wag their finger. And it's tough. We're in the 7th inning, and it's tough. But let me tell you this. I'm a Catholic, and you're a Catholic, not because of Cardinal McCarrick, and not because of Joe Biden, and not because Nancy Pelosi. We are Catholic because Jesus Christ died for our sins on the cross. That's why we have the crucifix. He rose on the 3rd day. He had 12 apostles. One betrayed him. That one got replaced by Matthias. He instituted one church, not several churches, not a dozen churches, not 2 churches, one church. And he gave them the 7 sacraments, and he gave them the doctrine, and he gave them the morality, and he said, go therefore ye into all nations, teaching them all that I've commanded you, and baptize them in the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. That's the deal that I signed in on through baptism, confirmation, Eucharist, confession. And that's the deal that you signed in on. And that's the deal. That's why we're Catholic. That's why we have joy. And if you're with me, and probably if you watch this podcast, we have confidence as Catholics. We have joy as Catholics. And we want to kick these wolves in the backside right out of the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. If you agree with me and like the show, hit the thumbs up. I am Catholic not because of the Judas Iscariot, and not because of the false teachers, and not because of the priests who use the collar and their title and their vestments to abuse the little ones who should have a millstone tied around their neck and thrown into the ocean, says Jesus. Yeah, but Taylor, the death penalty, so Pope Francis doesn't like the death penalty. Stop saying that. Jesus said it. I'm tired of this. You have a Pope Francis. Let's go with Jesus. The reason we're Catholic is to go with Jesus. And yes, I believe that Jesus instituted the papacy, and he instituted the episcopate of the bishops as the successor of the holy apostles. And the priesthood is deputized in the name of the bishops to administer the sacraments and sanctify the faithful. I believe all of that, my whole heart. No doubts about it. I believe all of it. But I also want the liars, the thieves, the embezzlers, the abusers, the Judases, and the wolves kicked right in the ass, right on out of the church. And I talk about this, and that's one of my passions, and people say, well, you're just trying to divide the church. No, I'm not trying to divide the church. I want the abusers and the bad people away from me and my kids. And if that is dividing the church, well, then heck yeah. But I don't see it as dividing the church. I see it as expelling an infection in the body. Get the infection out. And if you agree with that, this is the podcast for you, because this is what we talk about, right? If you want to learn about that infection, get a copy of my book, Infiltration. All right. Or you can get a signed copy at patreon.com/Dr. Taylor Marshall. All right. We have to identify the infection. We have to wall off the infection. We have to expel the infection. And then we got to bring health back to the body. And how do you get health back to the body? Just like in a human body, it's all about breath, heartbeat, circulation, exercise, sunlight, nutritious foods, not poisons, not chemicals. Make America healthy again. That's how you make a human. The church, it's about the circulation of grace. How do you get grace and how does it circulate? You have to be connected to the heart that beats. And what's the heart? It's the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And that flow in the communion of saints is the Holy Spirit. It's the living waters. It's the hydration that makes the body nimble and strong. That's the church. You have to have the right nutrition, not just, well, that is a hamburger and it has so many calories, but you want to get no chemicals, no red dye, no seed oils, no pesticides and poison on the lettuce and the tomatoes and the beef raised humanely without a bunch of junk injected into them every 6 to 9 months. And that's kind of like the liturgy and the sacraments, Yes, a valid consecration is a valid consecration, but let's make sure that our liturgy, our Mass, is as reverent and dignified and orthodox and beautiful with decorum as possibly. Just as we, depending on where you live and how much money you can only increase your dietary nutrition so much, right? There's things that we can't change. And just wherever you live, you can only maybe get to liturgies to a certain extent, but let's try our best. This is why I always say, find a traditional Latin Mass. Go to the Eastern Divine Liturgies. Go to these ancient apostolic rites that don't have, felt banners and cheese ball prayers of the faithful and quasi-heretical sermons that don't say anything. And go where there's glory and reverence. And it's not an aesthetic tick. It's not looking for a boutique liturgy. It's tapping into the authentic tradition, the inheritance, the patrimony of being a Roman Catholic. I'm a Roman Catholic. There's other forms of Catholic, Eastern Catholics. But for me, a Roman Catholic. And that means being part of the Roman patrimony. This is why my family and I, we go to the Roman Catholic Latin Mass. Yeah, but it's in Latin. That's a good thing. It protects the liturgy from wise guys who want to come in and change the liturgy however they think would be cool and hip and up to date and modern. I don't want that. They're praying to God. God understands every language, including Latin. Let's keep this thing on lock because people are screwing it up. Got some more super chats. Super chat coming in from Joshua Schaefer. Oh, I also need to make an apology because my moderators, Joey and Dan, sometimes as I'm doing the closing monologue, the wrap up on the show, super chats come in, but I'm already wrapping up, so I don't see them. So if you're one of those people, I just apologize. I didn't see your super chats. So if you want a super chat, get it a little bit earlier in the show. But again, I appreciate those super chats, and I'm sorry that I missed them. All right, Joshua Schaefer says, pray for the intercession of Our Lady of La Salette for an end to the betrayal by the clergy, as she prophesied they would sow infiltration. At infiltration. Our Lady of La Salette is an amazing Marian apparition. It's detailed in my book, Infiltration, and I give both versions of the mystery of Our Lady of La Salette in the appendix. So if you want to get both, as far as I know, in one place, the full version of both versions is in the appendix of Infiltration. Our Lady told us that this would happen. Jesus Christ said, days are coming when there will be false messiahs, false shepherds, false prophets in your midst. He's talking about in the church. He also talks about there will be wolves in sheep's clothing. Paul, in his epistle, talks about what he calls pseudo-apostles and pseudo-brethren who infiltrate into the church. And that was within the first 20 years of the church. Already there were pseudo-brothers and pseudo-apostles operating in the local churches that Paul was founding. So if it was happening in the first century, it's definitely happening in the 21st century. If you agree, hit the like button. And then we have Our Lady of La Salette and Our Lady of Fatima, who are also telling us that we are moving into an era of internal corruption in the church, in particular the clergy. Every time there's a crisis in the church, it's a clergy job. Martin Luther was a priest before he became the Protestant reformer. Arius, who started the biggest heresy in the early church of all time, that Jesus was not fully God, he was a priest in Egypt. Nestorius, who started the Nestorian heresy, was a bishop. He was the archbishop of Constantinople. So all of these mega heresies had origins amongst the clergy. And if you think about it, that makes sense because Satan went after Judas. He was also among the clergy. He was one of the 12 apostles. So Satan is going to attack the clergy because he can get bigger and wider influence. And that's why you have to pray for your clergy. And you pray for your priests. When you go to confession and you finish your confession, you pray for that priest. When you're praying your rosary, remember your pastor, your bishop, your priests. Pray for them. They're getting attacked more than twice that you are. You think you're getting attacked. They're getting attacked at least 2, 3, 4, 10 times more than you. Satan is after them. And some of them fall. And that's why we have problems. All right, so pray for our priests. Thank you, Joshua, for the super chat. Another super chat coming in from Castman777. Wasn't McCarrick accused of human trafficking? Do you think Catholic Charities was involved in McCarrick's alleged human trafficking scheme? I've never heard that. I've never heard that there's any connection there, so I'm not going to speculate on it. But McCarrick was having parties. People were being moved across state lines. I interviewed James Grind. That whole thing blew open. I believe there's movement over state lines on that situation as well. So, I don't know how you exactly define human trafficking, but acquiring and moving young boys and men for illicit, depraved, degenerate activity. Get the millstones, I was thinking it'd be kind of interesting if we did a Kickstarter and every time one of these priests is busted for this, we just do a Kickstarter and we raise money to get a millstone. Millstones are pretty big and they're used to grind grain, right? We just do a Kickstarter, we get a millstone made and, read the Gospels. Super chat here from Stop Child Abuse saying, God bless us all and protect President Trump. Trump is going all out. He also signed an executive order to end the chemical castration of youth. So exciting, interesting things happening. Big show today. We're up to 5,700. This is passionate. And I've been watching the comments while I'm talking here. Has Catholic Charities benefited you or anyone you know? Renee X, open borders is such a dangerous enterprise that predisposes so many lives to dangerous prospects. That's the point. And if you're a father or you're a mother, grandparent, uncle, aunt, you get this, right? I mean, we live in a safe neighborhood. It's one of the lowest crime rates in all of Texas. We live in a very safe place. And last night after dinner, I see my 21-year-old daughter, beautiful girl. You've seen her on here before, red hair. She's one of the twins. She's putting on a coat. I said, oh, where are you going? I'm going to go take a walk. No. It's dark out. It's cold out. Dad, I've done it before. I says, stay home. Put some pajamas on. Or if you really want to work out, go to the gym. But I'm at the point now in Texas, in a safe neighborhood, I don't want my beautiful 21-year-old daughter walking outside. That's sad. It's sad that we're at that level. But, you know, I don't want anything to happen to her. I love her. She's precious to me. You know, and going for a walk. Now, if it was all of us going for a walk, that would be better, especially if I had some protection in this general area of my person. Okay, but just a 21-year-old girl alone at night, even though we're in a safe neighborhood, I just don't feel right about it. And I'm sure y'all feel the same way. And again, part of it has to do with illegal immigration. You know, not far from where we live, I think it was a year or two ago, a beautiful blonde little girl was kidnapped in the middle of the day. Couldn't find her. You know, I don't know if they ever did find her, but it was so tragic. Apparently someone just drove up, grabbed her, drove off. Who are these people? You know, we don't know. All right, back into the generals here, and then we'll wrap things up. L77 says, "Oh, totally. Watch out for your beautiful daughters." Yes, you have to. That's what dads do and moms do. You got to watch out for your kids. Troy Cook says the freeze is most likely because they hire lawyer attorneys to help illegals stay in the U.S. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. And Vance is a practicing Catholic, and he's on the trail. Stephen S. says, Christ in America first. Jesus is my savior. Trump is my president. J.D. Vance is my vice president. And T. Trump is my hope for America. Christ is king. You know, I'll close with this. Don't you wish, what was your name here? Stephen. Stephen, don't you wish that you felt so encouraged and so confident that in that chat you just left on the screen here, you had also said, and my local Catholic bishop gives me so much hope. Or the Cardinals of America give me so much hope. They're so on fire. You know, they're preaching the gospel and administering the sacraments, and the church is growing. And we have such an amazing harvest of priests. And they're working with the government to bring about true justice and the common good of America. We're in such a golden age. I'm so glad to see our bishops are leading this. And for the last 4 years, the bishops, 99% of them, yellow-bellied, cowards, said not a dang thing about Catholic Joe Biden as he promoted unnatural marriage and the obliteration of young people in the womb, and all kinds of policies that just smashed right against Catholic doctrine and morality, right up against it. 99% of these bishops, cowards, yellow-bellied, said nothing. And then in 10 days of Trump being president, they're out there shaking their fist over money and immigration. Shame on them. Shame on them. I wish, Stephen, that we could say the same about our bishops, but unfortunately, we're a little embarrassed about them right now. Sad. What can we do about it? Well, you have to equip yourself, and it's not that hard. It's not that difficult. You need to read your Bible every day. Read your Bible every day. Pray your rosary every day. You're not on the team. Pray your rosary every single day. Find traditional, apostolic, reverent liturgy where there's no Eucharistic abuse, no liturgical abuse, good preaching by good priests, good confessions, lots of confessions. Pray, avoid mortal sin. This is what we need to do. All right. If you'd like for me to help you to read through the Bible in a year, we've helped hundreds of people at NSTI. If you want to read through the entire Bible, we have a 1-year plan. I have, like I said before, I have recorded a video of every book of the Catholic Bible. You can sign up at nsti.com or use the special link. It's a special, triple special link in the show notes here on the YouTube video. Use that link and you can sign up and start all 10 courses or whichever course you want, or go through the Bible in a year for $1, starting for $1. And then you'll see everything in there and you'll be like, this is amazing. NSTI is amazing. And you'll be in there with thousands of other members, thousands of other students. There's forums, groups, communities. Check it out, nsti.com, or use the special link and sign up. Also, remember to check out Birch Gold. Get that free kit. Text my name, Taylor, T-A-Y-L-R, to 989898. And consider diversifying and having a hedge of precious metal. Gold and silver is the money that God instituted, put it into the world before we had papers and bills and dollars. Go read about Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. Gold, silver, and animals. That's how you traded. All right, pray your rosary every single day. If you're not on the team, pray that rosary. Get close to Our Lady. Meditate on the mysteries of the Holy Rosary. And remember, our Lord Jesus Christ says, you're the light of the world and the salt of the earth. So go out there and be salty. God bless. God speed.